the next thing I want to do is talk about when you do these calculations, to understand that your calculator is only going to give you one value when you take an inverse trig ratio. Okay, so again, if we look at just the unit circle here, on this unit circle, how many angles will have this sine ratio? Remember, this sine is 1/2. So we're going to have one angle right here, right? So this angle has a sine of 1/2, right? √3/2, 1/2. Are there any other angles that have that same sine? What about this angle here? It has the same sine value, right, of 1/2. Negative √3/2. And so you have these two different angles that have the exact same sine ratio. So if you were to calculate the inverse sine or arc sine of 1/2, how do you know which angle it's asking for? Do you know? Your calculator will only define the sines in quadrants 1 and 4. Okay, so the arc sine, or the values that your calculator yields for the inverse sine, will only be in quadrants 1 and 4. And there's a different process that you'd need to follow in order to find the angle if it falls in a different quadrant. Okay. Now, when you look at the tangents on a unit circle, okay, tangent, same idea. Or actually, let's go to when you look at the cosines. Okay, so if you're looking at arc cosine of 1/2, okay, in quadrants 1 and 2, how many different angles are going to have this particular cosine of 1/2 in quadrants 1 and 2? It's just this one, right? 1/2 and √3/2. Okay, that's the only one that has it. So in the case of a cosine, the inverse cosines are defined in quadrants 1 and 2. So when you calculate this, if you were to take this angle, or take this calculation and take the inverse cosine of 1/2, it's going to give you this measure, this angle measure right here, 60 degrees. Here, if you wanted to find the other possible angle that does have a positive 1/2 as its cosine, is down here in quadrant 4. So if you wanted to find the angle in quadrant 4, for which this was the case, again, what you would have to do is you would have to look at where this falls and work yourself all the way around. And we're going to talk about these here in just a second, how to find the alternate versions. But just do keep in mind the inverse sine is only defined in quadrants 1 and 4 on your calculators, the inverse cosine in quadrants 1 and 2. Okay, the inverse tan is just like the inverse sine. It's only going to be defined on your calculator in quadrants 1 and 4.